Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. If you haven't had a chance to go to our show notes, head there and check out the links that we have for all the different organisations that you can help support that are helping to combat the Rural Fire Service and the animal welfare societies in Australia. We've also been made aware of a couple of cafes in and around the New South Wales area that are going to let us know what they are in need of. Their businesses have been devastated. So once I have that information, I will put it out in our newsletters. You can sign up mapperforward.org, and in any way that you can directly help these cafes and roasters that are in need will be greatly appreciated. This week, we start a new series on the Daily Coffee Pro called Professionalism for Coffee Employees. And the idea behind this series, this next 5 episodes, is to target the different levels of professionalism in the coffee industry for employees. There's a level of professionalism that's required and needed from employers. So people who own businesses, they have a level of professionalism that's required for them. And there's a professionalism that's required if you're an employee. And this week, we're going to focus on that. Today, in particular, we're just going to be talking in general about coffee professionals. And we'll go through what professionalism is and the key different parts of what make up your professionalism. Why do I want to talk about this? Well, because the barrier to entry is so low for our industry, and it's usually people's first job outside of school or outside of university or college, or while they're in university or college. The coffee industry is usually the job that you land to start you along your professional career. Some people just anticipate that it's going to be a job, and they don't anticipate that's going to be a career. And then they find themselves loving the added benefits of what comes with working in the coffee industry. Things like the social aspect that comes with it while you're on the job, as well as the social aspect off the job. When we have the way that we commune as an industry is a very social aspect. People enjoy that, and there's a great sense of belonging when you turn up to the coffee industry. It at times is very welcoming and at times very exclusive, and I believe that exclusivity has an integral role or connection with a lack of professionalism. And so in an effort for us to aspire to be a more professional industry as a consequence of a low barrier to entry, which means that the barriers that you have in front of you to enter a workforce or enter anything are either higher or lower. And in our industry, they're lower. The opposite of that, for example, would be to enter the medical profession, where you have to go and do 7 or 8 years of a college degree and a postgrad program, and then go and do a residency or an internship, and then a residency, however it goes in your country. But that has a very high barrier to entry. You cannot become a medical doctor without having done all of those things. Similarly, in the legal profession, similarly in, let's say, somewhere in between those two, our low barrier to entry and a high barrier to entry is things, for example, like selling real estate. You must have a real estate license in order to do that. So it may not be the years and years and years of education required, but you do have to attain certain licenses. None of that exists in the coffee industry. You can decide today, I want to go into the coffee industry. You can apply for a job, and very rarely they have any expectations of you having done anything before. And so because of this, because we have no certificates that are required, no leadership standards that are required, no technical skills that are required. Because of all of this, the level of professionalism that we have come to witness in our industry is quite low. And what's a consequence of that? Okay. A consequence is the fact that people, when they resign, they resign via text message. You'd never get that in the corporate world. Never once in my whole existence in the 10 or so years, maybe a little bit more than that I was in the corporate world. Never once did I see anybody resign via text message or via email or anything like that. Why? Because there was an expectation that resigning required you to hand in a letter of resignation and give 2 weeks notice or a month. It was usually a month's notice, but there was an understanding of what was required of you. Excuse me while I take a sip of my tea. Okay. Other things that cause a lack of professionalism is really bad communication strategies in the workplace, turning up to work late and not knowing how to communicate with leadership when that happens, and then doing it repeatedly, thinking that it's okay to take things from the workplace. All those kinds of things are a lack of professionalism. And you kind of know you're not supposed to do them, but there are no standard kind of rules. And nobody tells you how you're supposed to act as a professional and how you're not supposed to act as a professional. And as a consequence, we end up in a situation where we have lots of employers complaining that they can't find great staff. And that's not a generational thing. And we're going to talk a bit about generational differences later this week, but this is an industry thing. It's absolutely an industry thing, because when I was coming up, the same thing was happening. People would not show up to work on time. People would resign via text message. People would just not show up for their shift because they were ill, and not understand what the professional protocols are and the etiquettes are for doing that sort of thing. So let's dive into some areas that we'll cover throughout this week, and we'll dig a little bit into this today about what professionalism is and what are the different kinds of elements that you should be working at putting together in order to carry yourself like a true professional. So I guess the first aspect of that is your skill level. Let's say you start your coffee career and you have no previous experience. There are different kinds of skills. There are your technical skills and your soft skills. And your technical skills are going to render your ability to execute on the job. However, they're not the only part of what makes you a professional. Let's say you're a great technical executor of roasting or of buying coffee, green coffee, or of being on bar, or any of those things. You're a great technical executor of that. But if on the other side, the soft skills that are required, the soft skills that are required, as opposed to the technical skills that you already have mastered, if you don't have those, then nobody's going to want to work with you, or it's going to be very difficult to work with you, and people will not consider you professional. Examples of the soft skills are communication skills, empathy, being able to listen to people, your openness to hearing new ideas, your attitude towards your team, being able to fit in with the culture. They're the soft skills versus the hard skills, which are the technical skills. And we don't mean hard as in they're difficult. We mean they're the hard and fast skills that you need to technically learn to be able to execute on the job. Okay, so from a professional perspective, if we look at the hard skills, the technical skills, one part of being a professional when it comes to those things is understanding that those skills should continue to evolve. Having the opinion that you know everything and that you are the best at everything is going to back you into a corner where one day those things are going to be proven to be dated. And so continuing to have an open attitude towards what is currently considered the right thing in coffee versus what may become the right thing in coffee. Nobody knows these things. Coffee is associated with taste. Taste is subjective. So, and the people who are drinking what you're making are the ultimate deciders of whether what you're doing is going to be successful or not. Whether they like your coffee the best or somebody else's coffee the best, it's all fluid. It's all changing. It's all based on trends and affected by things like the media and social media and fads and etc., etc. So what I would suggest is that when it comes to the hard skills, the technical skills, I would suggest that you stay open, you continue to learn, you ask a lot of questions, you share your education with your teams, you invite them to teach you, and you're constantly learning. Never give off that attitude that you know everything. That's quite an unprofessional approach to anything. And people will tend to find that as arrogant, no matter where you go in the world. That's an unattractive kind of arrogance. On the other side of things, we have the soft skills. These are a lot harder to learn, even though the hard skills the technical skills are called hard. The soft skills are actually a lot harder to learn. And they are things like communication and listening and maturity and, things like empathy that I find are quite lacking in our industry. Well, that's unfair. That's an unfair thing for me to say. It's not that empathy is lacking. It's that I think that the observations that I have seen of empathy have been at either extremes. So either no empathy or over empathy. And we have this big gap in the middle. We live in weird and strange times. And so I think the soft skills are more important now than ever for a bunch of reasons. Your soft skills are important with regards to your professionalism when dealing with your customers, right? And people these days, the way they learn, they are communicating. I want to say learning to communicate with each other. And that is true on some sense because the way people communicate with each other is new and different and that keeps evolving. So they are learning to communicate in different ways based on technology and devices and things like that. But the way that we communicate with our customers is often different than the way that we're communicating with our teams and the way that we communicate with our suppliers and the way that we communicate with other professionals in our industry. And learning the very important communication strategies that come with that is really at the focus of how you will conduct yourself as a professional. I believe very deeply that the silver bullet, for those who don't understand what that means, that the best way, the quick, big solution for us to learn how to get on better and to work with more harmony together is through assertiveness training. Assertiveness doesn't mean what most people think it means. Most people think that assertiveness is aggressiveness. Being aggressive is very different to being assertive. Assertive is about clear, concise communication that understands and respects the boundaries of others as well as your own boundaries. And so I want you to imagine for a minute what your workplace would look like if everybody was saying what they mean and meaning what they say and communicating that respectfully and considering your boundaries as well as their own in those communication strategies. What a wonderful world we would live in. What cohesive environments we would be working in if that was the status quo of how communication was being done. This month, I know I keep saying it's this month, but we are almost there. I'm still waiting on the video editor to get me the final videos. But this month, we will be releasing the assertiveness training for the hospitality industry. And we're making it an affordable price so that if you want to become much more skilled at learning how to communicate with assertiveness, you will have access to that information. It will be an online course. The main presenter is a psychologist and it is fantastic. I was there. I got to review all the footage over the last couple of months. It's fantastic. And I would recommend that if you would like to invest in your own education, I think we're pricing it somewhere about $49. So it is affordable. It's going to cost you a few hours worth of work financially, but it's well worth the investment. Ask your employer to pay for it. And if you're an employer that's listening to this, get this for each of your employees, because this is a way you can absolutely guarantee that they are going to have a better understanding of how to talk to each other and how to communicate with each other. Real quick, before I wrap up, I just want to say another part of professionalism is the way that you look and present yourself. So I don't believe in any way, shape or form, particularly as someone who is a minimalist, that you have to dress uber cool and expensive to present as professional. But you do need to dress in a way that shows that you have great personal hygiene. So you need to be clean and you need to be in alignment with the dress code of what your workplace suggests. So, if they're saying turn up in a button-up shirt, there's different ways to turn up in a button-up shirt. You could turn up in a button-up shirt, but if it's clearly been washed and not ironed and you turn up in a wrinkled button-up shirt, that's not the same as turning up in a button-up shirt that has been ironed and looks presentable. So that's just one example of how you can look respectable. It doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that you have to buy expensive clothes, but looking presentable and respectable is important. And respectable is defined as different things in different places. So however you and your team define respectable, go with it, but do it in a way that works for what you're trying to present as your version of professionalism. The other thing is, respect is a part of professionalism. You respecting other people and you giving people a reason to respect you. A reason for people not to respect you is if you steal from them, if you show up to work late all the time, if you are horrible to your coworkers, if you are combative and confrontational all the time, if you're looking to start trouble. Those are things that will cause people not to respect you. But if you are someone who actively listens, if you do your work well, if you speak truth to unfair authority, if you look after people, stick up for people, if you are fair, these are all things that help people respect you. If you have integrity, if you are authentic, all of these are attitudes that contribute to your professionalism and go a long way to helping people respect you. Once you start to put all of this stuff together, what ends up happening is that you separate yourself out in a sea of people who have no idea how to be professional or have no interest in being professional. You separate yourself out as a real professional. And that has many rewards to it. You can start choosing the kind of jobs that you want. You are going to be considered for pay rises. You're going to be considered for promotions. The suggestions that you put forward will be listened to more purely because of your respectability. Now, notice in there, nothing that I said had anything to do with gender, race, religion, anything. It's all about professionalism. And so if you're somebody who is looking to separate yourself out based on the quality of you as a person, professionalism is a wonderful way to do that. I've gone on a little longer today than normal, but I hope this has set the stage for what is going to be a great week worth of content. If you have anything that you would like particularly addressed, head to our website, mapitforward.org, and you'll see a little button at the top of the homepage. And it says Ask the Daily Coffee Pro, and you'll be able to ask questions specifically contributing to this subject. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.